There are moments that split your life into a before and after. Mine came the night I saw my daughter-in-law hurl a suitcase into the lake. And I heard something inside it cry. If I had arrived 1 minute later, my grandson would be dead. I never imagined that one day, I'd be standing on a muddy lake shore, watching my daughter-in-law hurl a suitcase into the dark water, and knowing in my bones that something inside it was alive. If God gave me any warning, I must have missed it. Because in that moment, my world, already broken, shattered for good. My name is Betty, but that hardly matters anymore. What matters, is what I did after I saw my grandson drowning in a locked suitcase. Let me start at the beginning, before the lies, before the screams, before the police sirens wailed across that cursed lake. My son, Louis, was only 33 when he died. They told me it was an accident, a tragic fall down the apartment stairs. His wife, Cynthia, cried so hard she could barely breathe. At the funeral, she clung to me like a child, and all I wanted was to hold her together as we buried my own flesh and blood. Louis had always been the son in every room. He never left without giving me a hug and saying, "Love you, Mom. Be safe." He was that kind of man, the kind who made you believe goodness still existed. And now he was gone. A week later, Cynthia announced she needed space to grieve. She refused every visit, every call. "Betty, you suffocate me with your love," she snapped once. I bit my tongue. She was hurting, I told myself, and grief makes fools of us all. But late at night, I couldn't stop thinking about the baby, Hector, only 6 weeks old then. My first and only grandchild. The last piece of my son. Was he crying? Was he eating? Was she coping? The questions gnawed at me. I didn't know the truth yet. I didn't know that Louis never fell, that he was pushed. I drove by Cynthia's house one night. I told myself it was harmless, I just needed to see that the lights were on, hear the faint cry of a baby. Just a glimpse of reassurance that my grandson was safe. Instead, I saw Cynthia dragging a large black suitcase out of the house. At first, I thought she might be leaving, running from grief, maybe visiting family. But as she yanked that suitcase across the grass toward her car, something odd struck me. It moved. Like something shifting inside. She opened her trunk but then changed her mind. She slammed it shut, cursing under her breath. I crouched lower, hidden behind a tree. Her face wasn't the face of a widow mourning her husband. It was twisted. Angry. Terrified. She shoved the suitcase into her back seat instead and drove off like the devil was chasing her. My heart dropped, I followed. She drove to Blackwater Lake, a place where locals dumped trash or drank cheap beer under the moonlight. The air smelled like algae and gasoline. She dragged that suitcase again, struggling, grunting, swearing. Then, with one violent heave, she launched it into the lake. The splash echoed. And then, a muffled cry. Small. Helpless. A baby's cry. I didn't hear anything else, because my brain exploded with terror. Hector! I ran. I stumbled into freezing water up to my chest, my hands clawing at the rippling black surface. Moonlight shimmered off the suitcase as it began to sink. I grabbed it just before it disappeared. My fingers burned, my heart tore itself apart, and I screamed for help like a wounded animal. Cynthia didn't help. She ran. On the muddy shore, I collapsed over the suitcase. My fingers shook violently, trying to unzip it, each second an eternity. My heart pounded like a war drum. Finally, the zipper gave way. Hector. Soaked, blue-lipped, gagging on a pacifier taped into his mouth. He whimpered once, and then lay still. No. No, please, I begged, pumping his tiny chest with shaking hands. I pressed my lips to his, breathing my soul into him. Again. Again. Come back, baby. Come back to me. Come back to Grandma. And then? A weak cry. A tiny miracle. I wrapped him in my jacket and ran barefoot, screaming, toward the nearest headlights I saw on the road. I didn't care that I was soaked or crying or bleeding from my knees. I didn't care that my voice broke. Help. Call 911. A young couple pulled over. They wrapped us in blankets. The woman sobbed when she saw the baby. The man called the police. And when the sirens arrived, that's when the truth began to unravel. The police and the lie. They questioned me for hours. What was I doing there? Why was I following Cynthia? How did I know? I told them everything. Every last detail. But Cynthia? She had her story ready. She's obsessed with me, she sobbed. She blames me for Lewis's death, and now she's trying to take my baby. The look she gave me, smug, venomous, told me she thought she'd won. And honestly? For a moment, so did I. Because the police didn't arrest her. They said we need more evidence. I nearly lost control. I almost jumped over that metal table and tore her apart with my bare hands. But I didn't. Because I looked at my tiny grandson, alive, fragile, clinging to life, and I knew. I had to stay calm. For him. They released her that night. And I vowed. She will never get near Hector again. The truth about Lewis. The investigation cracked open faster than anyone expected. Neighbors stepped forward. Arguments. Screaming. Crying. Talk of money and life insurance. Then the medical report came back. Lewis's injuries? Not consistent with a fall. Consistent with a push. Suddenly, Cynthia's world wasn't so secure anymore. Detectives re-interviewed her. Her alibi? Paper thin. Her rage poorly hidden. They found emails, threats, secret bank accounts, evidence she forged his signature on a new life insurance policy. And finally, a witness. Someone saw her shove Lewis during an argument on the stairs. That was the beginning of the end for her. But the battle wasn't over. While the criminal case built up, Cynthia still argued she should retain custody of Hector. She claimed postpartum depression, mental breakdown, every excuse in the book. I stood in court trembling with rage, listening to her lawyer paint her as a victim. And then the judge looked at me. Mrs. Roberts, why do you believe the child should remain in your care? My voice shook, but I stood tall. Because I pulled him from a suitcase at the bottom of a lake. The courtroom went silent. I showed them photos of his tiny bruised wrists where restraints had rubbed his skin raw. The paramedics report documenting hypothermia. The fact that she tried to murder him the same way she murdered his father. Tears streamed down my face. I lost my son, I whispered. Please don't let me lose my grandson too. The judge didn't hesitate. Custody awarded to me. Cynthia screamed, a horrifying sound, as officers pulled her from the courtroom. The trial for Lewis's murder took 7 agonizing months. Cynthia pled guilty in the end, trying to avoid life without parole. She failed. She'll spend 40 years behind bars. And yet, I don't feel triumphant. I feel empty. Tired. Like I aged a lifetime in 1 year. But Hector? He saved me. He learned to walk on my living room carpet. He said his first word in my arms. His smile is a second chance at life. Sometimes, when I hold him, he grips my shirt and buries his face against my shoulder like he remembers the cold darkness of that lake. I whisper into his hair. You're safe now. Grandma's here. The nightmare that doesn't end. Do you want the truth? I still wake up screaming. I still hear the splash. I still see the suitcase sinking, inch by inch. Some nights, I dream that I arrived 1 minute later. 1 minute. And everything would have been different. Grief is a strange creature. It devours you slowly. Sometimes through memory. Sometimes through guilt. But then I look at Hector's little hands as he sleeps, curled into fists like a warrior. And I realize his survival wasn't an accident. Lewis always told me, "If anything ever happens to me, Mom, take care of my family." Those words echo inside me like a heartbeat. I kept that promise. What love can do. People call me a hero. I'm not. I'm just a mother. A grandmother. A woman who refused to let evil win. When I stand by that lake now, because yes, sometimes I go back, I don't see darkness anymore. I see a beginning. That suitcase wasn't just a container. It was a coffin. It was a crime scene. It was proof that monsters can wear the face of someone you once hugged. And it was the reason I became stronger than I ever thought possible. To save a child. To honor a son. To protect a family that is smaller now, but still whole. Love isn't gentle. Love is a battle. And I will fight until my last breath. In the end, hope. Hector is 4 now. He laughs loudly, just like his daddy. He runs toward life, never away from it. Sometimes he asks about his father. I show him pictures. We light a candle every birthday. We tell stories of a man who loved him before he was even born. One day, he will learn the whole truth. But not yet. For now, he deserves innocence. If anyone asks what happened, what I saw that night, I tell them this. I saw a suitcase thrown into a lake. And I found my reason to live inside it. A message to anyone still listening: if you've ever lost someone. If you've ever been broken by grief. If the world has ever tried to take everything from you. Remember this. Sometimes the greatest battles are fought quietly. In cold water. In empty courtrooms. In the stillness of night. When the house finally stops crying. And sometimes, love wins.